One of my surprisingly controversial takes, i.e. a lot of you disagree with it, and that's fine, that's okay. What else is the point of all of this to kind of argue and discuss and even disagree? But a lot of you disagree with it. One of those takes is that it actually does matter quite a bit that President Trump is very unpopular. It matters quite a bit. What it doesn't mean, and I've never claimed this, what it doesn't mean is that everything is going to slow to a halt, that Republicans are going to completely abandon him, that the MAGA base is going to disintegrate. None of that is the case. But what it does mean is that other political actors, including, I'll say, some Republicans, begin to calibrate their reactions, begin to calibrate how they respond to him differently if they think he's unpopular versus when he's popular. And we can see this, we can perceive this. Remember how it was in December of 2024 and the first few months of the administration, when people across the political spectrum were absolutely convinced that Trump hadn't just won, but he had won a commanding majority. This isn't true, but people behaved like this. And that he somehow represented the country at large, that the country was MAGA and everyone just had to adjust. Democrats were very clearly beginning to kind of fall in line, to push against any type of resistance and to try to be accommodating to Trump. And then all kinds of private actors, institutions, organizations were also preparing to accommodate themselves to whatever Trump demanded, whether that was getting rid of DEI, whether that was trying to purge any liberal or leftist elements in the organizations, whatever it was, they were going to get on board because Trump had won the popular vote. It seemed like he was in command. But as Trump's standing has deteriorated and deteriorated quite rapidly, what you've seen is those institutions which didn't bend continue to hold out, and those that did bend are sort of looking for ways to back off, to kind of recover a little bit of what they gave up. And among Republicans, this is interesting, and this doesn't get so much play, but it's important. Among Republicans, you're seeing a record number of retirements from Congress, people deciding they're not going to run for re-election. Now, I know that there's a fear that there's going to be some kind of shenanigans that would lead to the midterm elections not really happening or the results not really mattering. I've argued against this. I think that the administration will probably try something. They might try to post up some ICE agents at a few polling places, that kind of thing. But I've argued multiple times, and you can check out the video. I think I'll put it at the end of this one. I've argued multiple times that this kind of misunderstands the actual political landscape, that this vastly overstates the difficulty of even trying to accomplish something like this. You need a lot of people. Midterm elections, congressional elections are not presidential elections. They don't hinge on swing states. They hinge on swing districts, and there's probably going to be several dozen swing districts. And so in order to make this actually work, you'd have to have enough people to cover every single possible swing district. And given that last I checked, for example, in Mississippi, the incumbent senator is only 3 points ahead. In Mississippi, it's a state that went 61% for Trump. That's a 17-point swing, right, away from the Republican. Given that that's what the national environment looks like, it's probably going to be a fool's errand to try anything more than kind of a token attempt to suppress votes. People can disagree with me about this. We'll see, you know? Eventually, reality will let us know, so we'll see. Anyway, the retirements, though, are a sign that Republicans, at least, aren't so confident and either think they might lose in the general election or simply don't want to be in the minority in the House or the Senate. So you have all these indications, these indicators that suggest that Republicans know the president is very unpopular. They're trying to shift the conversation away from Iran to talk about their big tax cut bill. This is why you've seen all these no tax on tips events that the president has held. But even those, he can't get out of his way, and they become kind of fiascos for the president and Republicans. Now, I bring all of this up because we have some new polling out, and a new NBC News poll shows Trump at 37% approval, which is bad. That's approaching George W. Bush in 2008 levels. And then I think I'm going to say 63% disapproval. And if you break down the disapproval into strongly disapprove and kind of just regular disapprove, it's 50% strongly disapprove and 13% regular disapprove. So the vast majority of those who disapprove strongly disapprove, which means they're not budging. They're not moving back into the approval column anytime soon. And that really is striking. I mentioned George W. Bush. Around the last year of his term, he had similar numbers with disapproval. Something like 51% of Americans strongly disapproved of Bush, and they weren't going to budge. That strong disapproval coupled with that low approval is something you can see across multiple polling averages, where Trump is trending into the 30s and his disapprovals remain very high. And if we look at special election results and polling results and generic ballot, what you see is an overall national environment that is trending quite strongly towards the Democrats, anywhere from D plus 8 plus 9 plus 10, which would put you in the 2018 range in terms of a swing, to something that we've never really seen in a long time, possibly in the D plus 14, plus 15. Massive swings that would put all kinds of races in play. It's why the Senate is very much in play. Prior to this year, prior to when Trump took office, the assumption was that whatever happens, Democrats were not going to take the Senate. The bar was too high. But Trump is so unpopular, so catastrophically unpopular, that a Senate upset is very much in the mix. Like I said, this is actually going to shape how other political and non-political actors respond to the president. Beyond the fact that administrations, even the best ones, tend to flail in the face of low popularity. And it takes a lot of skill, right, in a White House to be able to bounce back from a bout of low popularity. It happened. Reagan bounced back in 1983 from a bout of low popularity in 82. Obama bounced back from his bout of low popularity in 2011. It's possible to do. Clinton bounced back from his in 95. This can happen, right? Like a skilled White House with a skilled president can bounce back, but it's difficult to do. And this White House is many things, the Trump White House, but it's not skilled. We're looking at really kind of bottom of the barrel players here, not even the B team or the C team or even the D team, but the F team, or I grew up in a place where the lowest grade you could get was an E, so my mind jumps to E team. But the F team, several of whom are so monomaniacally focused on their own ideological interests that they will do catastrophically unpopular things because they just want to do them. That's Stephen Miller and his assaults on various cities. So it's not clear, right, that the administration can meaningfully recover. I mean, they can, maybe. I'm not ruling it out. It's certainly possible. But I wouldn't hold my breath here. Not going to hold my breath. And that raises something that I think is intellectually interesting. It probably won't be great to experience, but it's interesting. We haven't really seen a president get brutally unpopular this early in his administration with this many years left to go. George W. Bush, I've mentioned him twice already. He was in the last year of his presidency when he got this unpopular. Jimmy Carter, maybe him, in 79, he was trending this unpopular, but again, that was kind of not the last year of his presidency, but he was in the back half of it. Herbert Hoover is one example of what happens when you get brutally unpopular early on. His White House kind of experiences a public opinion collapse by 1931. But it doesn't happen very often to see a president become this unpopular this early on. Things start to get weird politically if it looks like there's going to be a free fall and there's still 2 more years to go. And so that is the thing I want you to think about. I don't have a conclusion here. I don't always have conclusions. A thing I want you to think about is the kinds of political possibilities that open up, both on the Republican side for the factional infighting on the Republican side and on the Democratic side, for if a president becomes catastrophically unpopular with 2 years left to go. And this president in particular, because the other thing about this president is that we know he's not going to react well to becoming very unpopular and unable really to exert any kind of formal or informal pressure on anyone. So does that mean we see more military adventurism? Another war somewhere, perhaps Cuba? Does that mean he lashes out using ICE and Customs and Border Protection and even the National Guard again to attempt to go after his political enemies? Or does that mean, and this is kind of what I think it means, he withdraws completely in the face of chaos abroad and at home in the face of economic disruption, he just kind of gives up and slinks away. Wounded ego. And are we left then in a bad place with no meaningful leadership? I think that could happen. Which, again, not looking forward necessarily to experiencing it, but intellectually, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. Thank you for watching. As promised, here's another video. And as always, continue giving the page a subscribe. You know the spiel. I'm not going to go through it. I'll see you next time.